Welcome and good evening, a late one at that. It's Tuesday, June the 11th, and it's This Is Going Well, I think. The show where no one's listening, no one cares. The show where every episode's the last episode, and I am the host of said show, David Cooper. Today, pebbling, a new relationship trend that involves memes. Think cats. What does it all mean, and why are the people doing it? Pebbles are little pebbles of goodness that you give your partner through silly videos. We'll break that apart with a psychosexual therapist. Then it's more therapy. Grudges this time, and why holding on to them might be bad for your health. And so, tips for letting them go. This time with a psychologist. Then it's sexual health and consent educator Samantha Bitty, and she's got an issue with the use of the word tolyamory, which is really just code for cheating. I talked about it last week. We're going to talk about it again. All that and more. And finally, comedian Natasha Vinik, my friend, just came back from performing at the Netflix Is a Joke Festival. How that went, life, the universe, and everything. That with Natasha Vinik. That all sounds like a fantastic show, and I hope you're looking forward to it. But first, this. Here's a story served up with equal parts shocking and baffling, and it might make you reconsider your morning mimosa ritual. In Sutter County, California, a second grade teacher was arrested for a DUI and child endangerment last October. Apparently, she was teaching her class with a blood alcohol content level, or BAC level, twice the legal limit. Now, I know teachers have to deal with a lot, but this is taking extracurricular activities to a whole new level. But here's where the story goes from slightly alarming to amazing. That county's district attorney announced that the teacher won't face any charges. The DA proudly announced, quote, "It is not illegal to teach drunk." No, I suppose it's not. There are a lot of things that are a bad idea that are not technically illegal. For example, I don't know, being in the doctor's room alone before they're about to check your feet for fungus and then you get naked before the doctor walks in. Not illegal, frowned upon. Maybe illegal, not important. The DA further mentioned that they could not prove that this teacher drank before driving to school, only that she was drunk while teaching. Which I guess breathes new life into the theory you can get sauced at work as long as you're not driving there. Parents from the school are understandably slightly upset. That's an understatement. I mean, what kind of precedence does this set? Are we going to see teachers rolling into class with a flask in hand? At least do what my 10th grade English teacher did and have the courtesy of putting the booze in a water bottle. But I'm picturing what this might lead to. A geography lesson where the teacher ends up crying about his divorce? One parent from the school said showing up intoxicated is a fireable offense at any job. I agree, mostly. Maybe not a wine taster. But definitely if the job involves shaping young minds. It's like my mother always says, it's hard to teach fractions when you're seeing double. She never said that. No one's ever said that. The DA who dropped the charges explained that the law is a bit fuzzy in California on child endangerment. They couldn't prove that the teacher's intoxication would actually endanger the kids, only that it might. And that's not reasonable doubt. And they couldn't prove public intoxication because they couldn't show the teacher was unable to care for herself. So as long as you're a heavyweight, you can hold your booze and you can still walk in a straight-ish line, you're good to go. And while we might not see criminal justice in this case, we may see justice after all. The school district's website no longer lists the teacher as employed there, and the Commission on Teaching Credentialing in California says a teacher could lose their credential for this kind of misconduct, but that it's handled on a case-by-case basis. So parents can rest a little easier knowing their kid's drunk teacher may face some consequences. So with that, if you are a teacher or thinking about a career change to teaching, just know you can't drink on the job, unless you're really, really sneaky about it, and don't get caught driving beforehand. In Florida book banning news, the Indian River County School Board has decided to ban a book about banning books. Wait, that's the book that bans books, and in the book they ban the books, and now that book is banned. That's as stupid as banning a book about banning books. Oh wait, that's exactly what they did. I see now. The book in question, aptly named Ban This Book, follows a fourth grader who sets up a secret library after her school board bans a bunch of books. This is already getting very confusing and meta. I guess the actual Florida school board thought the book was giving kids too many ideas about fighting the man, or in this case, the school board. The decision was pushed by Moms for Liberty, A group that seems to think the word liberty means ban anything that we want to censor. Not my definition, but hey, who am I to judge? Actually, I am judging. Moms for Liberty's leader must have had a lot of free time because she's also challenged over 140 other books. Apparently, she's on a mission to protect kids from literature. One school board member justified the ban, calling the book liberal Marxist propaganda. And while I am no expert, I am pretty sure Karl Marx never wrote a manifesto about fourth graders' secret libraries. You can't make this stuff up. Meanwhile, looking at a seemingly non-biased book rating website, the book only got a 1 rating for mild inappropriateness. But hey, why let the facts get in the way of a good old-fashioned witch hunt? And while the author of this book called the decision incredibly ironic in the way that maybe, I don't know, trying to fight sexually transmitted diseases by banning sex education might be, in case you're wondering, spoiler alert, that does not work. The book's author thinks the board is ashamed of their own actions and doesn't want a book to call them out. Sounds like someone or some district school board in Florida has a guilty conscience. Ultimately, that board voted 3-2 to pull the book, a decision backed by members who are supported by, you guessed it again, Moms for Liberty. They're like the PTA from hell, but instead of organizing bake sales, they're organizing book burnings. So to wrap this up, one Florida school board has taken a stand against the dangerous idea that kids should think for themselves, and that anyone or any book might question their ability to censor. Up next, they might ban dictionaries for teaching kids too many words, and dirty ones too, like sex. I think that's in the dictionary. Anyway, who needs freedom of thought when you can have the comfort and safety of censorship? Staying in Florida, the state where you go to jail. Go directly to jail. Do not pass go and do not collect $200. That's right, a man in Florida got arrested and told the police that he's none other than Mr. Monopoly. You know, the guy from the board game. Now, I'm not saying Florida's the only land of bizarre news, but if weird news was an STD, Florida would definitely need all kinds of creams. So our criminal, our hero, Mr. Monopoly, was caught spray painting a concrete wall in St. Petersburg. When cops nabbed him, he claimed he was born on April 20th, 1969. 4/20/69, bro. Oh, man. If he was lying, was he the Easter Bunny? Was he born on Christmas Day? The mystery. The mystery. Turns out after being booked, the guy was 35, not 55. So not born on 69, but who is counting? Witnesses say he was wearing tan and white shorts and a white cloth around his neck. I'm guessing he was going for the eccentric artist look, but ended up looking like confused tourist. Anyway, it's hard to say you weren't doing a bunch of graffiti when cops find you with a big black bag full of spray paint cans. Or maybe this guy's just a modern day Picasso. When asked his name by officers, our hero clammed up. But after a bit of back and forth, he finally revealed to cops that his name was Mr. Monopoly. And a joke so important, I'll say it twice, the officer did not receive a get-out-of-jail-free card from the man. They found his real ID, and boom. He was not, in fact, Mr. Monopoly. First name Mr., last name Monopoly. Maybe he should have stuck to the board game, because go directly to jail is not as fun in real life. And so that's where the tale of our hero, Mr. Monopoly, ends. He went straight to jail, directly to jail. He did not roll doubles to get out, but he did manage to be released on a $1,000 bond. If only Monopoly money could be so useful in real life to get you out of trouble. And now coming up, the new relationship trend, pebbling. Pebbling, what does it mean? The latest trend in relationships that everyone on the old internet is talking about. And don't worry, I had no idea what it was before today either. Our next guest knows all about it, though. We are here with a psychosexual therapist, sex educator, and resident intimacy expert at the dating app 3Fun. Her name is Gigi Engle. Gigi, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
So I guess the immediate question is, what exactly is pebbling? Can you explain it for me? And how has it become such a beloved term with modern relationships?
Sure. So pebbling gets its name from the way that penguins are known to bring pebbles and sticks and all sorts of little items to their loved ones, usually mates, but also like their family members in their little penguin pod, as a way of establishing intimacy and familial bonds. So it's like a very adorable, everybody loves a penguin reference.
Yes.
It's taken on a new modern meaning of like when we bring little gifts or presents to people we love around us. And it's really about meme culture, like sending memes and videos on Instagram and TikTok and stuff that remind you of somebody is our human way of pebbling.
I think little love gestures transcends meme culture. I think this has been something that's been good in relationships for many years, but this is a more modern form. My girlfriend often gives me shit because she'll send me cat videos and stuff, and I don't respond with other memes. But I guess I should start, shouldn't I?
I mean, yeah, that's the idea, is to pebble back and forth, or at the very least acknowledge them, you know?
So how is transacting in memes, transacting and sending little loving things on the internet transformed our communication styles with relationships?
I mean, it's kind of become its own love language of sorts. It's like a way of letting your loved ones and friends and partners know that you're thinking about them, or something reminded you of them, and that's like a nice little gesture. So I think that it's like a really low stakes way of showing you care about someone.
So I don't really scan the internet for memes. Like I don't transact with news feeds and get many memes. I guess that means I have low meme literacy. And my question is, what is meme literacy and how do we develop it if people don't have any idea what we're talking about?
I mean, I'm not a meme expert, so I might not be the right person for this question, but I feel like meme literacy is just like understanding the sort of message or joke, usually a joke, that's behind, you know, whatever little video or whatever little picture with words. And it usually has a broader social context to it. Like taking a video, like a scene from a movie or a TV show, and then sort of captioning it with like something really relatable. And that usually will remind you of somebody if it hits home, and then you send it to them. And that's kind of like what it is. It's kind of like understanding that it's giving a broader message about your relationship.
Are there any challenges with this way of transacting with little gifts?
I don't know about challenges as much as like sometimes someone will send you a meme and you're like, I don't know what this means. Or you'll be like, I don't understand why this was something that made you think of me. So I think sometimes there can be miscommunication. But because memes are they're fun based, like it's very low stakes. And I think that it very rarely would end in somebody feeling like offended.
Got you. So we're transitioning here when pebbling from traditional gifts to these little digital tokens of affection. Do you think this enhances people's connections in a way that old gifts don't, like little tiny physical gifts don't?
I think that the little tiny physical gifts are great, and I think they have their purpose, but this is a much more accessible way of exchanging messages and that kind of like love action for people. Because like at the end of the day, like that's expensive, and also like we're not always in the same physical proximity as the people that we love, so memes are more accessible. With that being said, like, you know, gifts, it serves the same purpose as like a little gift, I think.
Got it. So as a therapist, do you have any recommendations for ways that people can get closer? You know, maybe pebbling, maybe it's something else if they're not doing these things now?
I mean, I think that pebbling is a great way to be consistently in communication with people that you care about, but also it's about more than just sending memes. I think we also have to be letting people know that we care about them like legitimately, and making sure that that's not the only kind of communication that we have with people. Because, you know, if you were just messaging your partner with memes and never really told them anything else, never gave them words of affirmation, never told them that, like, you know, you love them and stuff, the memes might start feeling kind of shallow. So I think it's important that we don't just rely on something like pebbling as being our only way of telling people we love them.
So do the deeper stuff and do the memes too, is what I'm hearing. What's some of that deeper stuff you can do to forge a better connection with your loved one?
I mean, I think genuinely texting somebody and letting them know like that you love them and that you appreciate them is more genuine than just sending memes. Memes are fun and they're a great way to maintain connection, but they can't be a replacement for more authentic communication. So just something to keep in mind.
I got it. Do you think technology is going to change the way that we express intimacy over the next, I don't know, 10, 15 years? Seems like AI is the big buzzword, but I don't know. If I think of my grandparents, they were writing each other letters. Do you think it's going to transform in any ways? Are you seeing it transform with young people now?
I mean, I think we're seeing it transform. I think just the fact that we're having this conversation shows you that the way we're communicating transforms. And as advances happen in technology, so do the ways that we communicate with each other. And that's not a good or bad thing. It's very neutral. What's important is that we're maintaining our connections with people in authentic ways. When it comes to stuff like AI, like I think it has its place and it's helpful, but I don't think it replaces authentic human connection. And I think that humans are naturally social beings, and AI can't take that over. It can't be a replacement for that. We'll still seek out human connection.
I completely agree. All right. So pebbling, have you seen this deployed in a creative way? Do you have any memorable experiences where you've seen other clients pebble, you've pebbled on your own, or you've just heard about it?
I mean, I actually think that it's been a really interesting way for me to bond with my colleagues. Like we see all these like really funny kind of therapist related memes and we'll send them to each other. And I found that that's been a really fun way to keep in contact with people who are like friends, but also colleagues. So that's an interesting way that it's manifested.
It's interesting, this inside language we have with our friends, with our loved ones that only they understand. Like, I'm always texting my best buddy things that if anyone else saw, they'd think this was ridiculous. They don't understand it. Same with my girlfriend. I think pebbling, I guess, can be another example of this. I'm sure there's some psychotherapy term for the way that you transact or talk to a loved one in a language that no one else understands. But yeah, I think pebbling is just another example of that, don't you think?
Absolutely. I think that's one of the things that makes it special is like, the meme you're sending somebody, it might be like from a generic account, but it's speaking to a very specific dynamic of you that you have with that person, and only the two of you understand that.
Gigi, thanks for talking about this with me. I really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. It was great to chat.
Gigi Engle is an author, a psychosexual therapist, a sex educator, and the resident intimacy expert at the dating app 3Fun. Have you ever held a grudge? Has it served you? Do you think maybe holding that grudge meant worse things for you than the person you were holding it against? I believe, and this is from anecdotal, personal experience, forgiving is more important for you than the person who did something to you. And it turns out holding a grudge may not actually be great for your health. In a few moments, we'll interview someone who's written on this topic, so you got that to look forward to. Letting go of grudges. Why? Honestly, they take up a lot of unnecessary, dare I say, negative energy, and they may even harm our health. I have someone here who's written extensively about this. She's a psychologist, a writer who covers mental health and wellness in San Francisco, Dr. Juli Fraga. Juli, thank you for chatting with me about this.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you've listed out some tips in a recent Washington Post article for how you can let go of grudges. But first, I want to go a little bit before the article. How did you become interested in the psychological effects aspects of grudges and their impact on mental health?
It's something I see an awful lot in my practice and just kind of in life. And it's something that pops up and we don't maybe even realize that it's something we're holding on to. No one has ever come to me for therapy and said, hey, I'm here because I can't let go of a grudge. But they've come in and said, hey, I'm here because I have a really contentious relationship with my sibling,
My story to a T, but enough about me.
And then, you unpack that a little bit and they're harboring a grudge. And I became really interested in the ways that we can, let go of our grudges several years ago when I stumbled on the research by forgiveness researcher, Dr. Fred Luskin. And Dr. Luskin brought up something that was really novel that I hadn't heard before. And he said, in order to let go of our grudge, we have to examine this grievance narrative, a story we're telling ourselves about the other person that doesn't leave us feeling better. It's not doing anything for us.
No.
And taking it a step further, Dr. Luskin also says, and there's been research on this, if we're telling ourselves a negative story about someone else, chances are we're going to have some, physical reaction to that. Maybe our heart beats, maybe our nervous system's getting activated. And that can really also just impact our overall physical health as well as our mental health. So, kind of reframing, letting go of a grudge, and its relationship to forgiveness. And that forgiveness isn't really for the offender. It's really for us.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. If someone's taking up space in your head, negative space, you're just thinking about them all the time. I have held a grudge against my eldest brother since 2012. I've talked about it at length on my show. I won't go into why with you because I've beaten that one to death. But I've sort of forgiven him, and I don't even know if I've told him I've forgiven him. I've forgiven him for me. And I just feel a lot better. It's a whole area of stress in my life that I was introducing because I felt wronged. I felt I had a valid grievance, and maybe my reasons were valid or not, but the whole process of carrying it just had, I don't know, such a negative impact on me and the story I told about myself for so many years. So anecdotally, in my personal experience, yeah, it does help you more than it does the other person. Like, don't do it for them. They wronged you. Do it for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's examine grudges. You've mentioned exercise could be a way to help let go of grudges. Tell me more about that.
I think, there's probably a correlate there. It's not like exercise is not the cure-all for grudges, but exercise, if we're harboring just negative emotions, right? Exercise can be a way to just kind of release something, to maybe find some, regulation, in our bodies that helps us maybe, look at something in a different way when we're not so, activated, or for, using non-psychology speak, been out of shape about something.
I got you. So exercise, just one tool. Other tools would be trying to find out the meaning behind the grudge. What's the deeper thing there? Can you say more about that process?
Yeah, I think when we harbor a grudge, it's really natural to look at a wrongdoer, the person who wronged us. But if we're constantly looking at a wrongdoer, we're going to stay stuck because we'll continue to feel wronged, the only person that we have really kind of any agency over is ourselves. So kind of instead of looking at the wrongdoer, why did they do this to me? Why can't they get, realize that they're hurting me? What about their behavior is hurting me so much? What is my role in this relationship? What can I do in order to feel free from my grudge,
It's interesting. I feel like that's the first thing I learned in therapy many years ago. The only person you can control is you. And I also learned about righteous anger or righteous indignation. When you really feel someone's wronged you, you feel entitled to hold a grudge because they've done something that you don't agree with or that has gone against you. But I think a different frame is a better way to look at that, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. And I want to say something else about grudges too, just kind of that I know in my experience as an emotions-focused therapist. A grudge is also a defense. A grudge is a defense against another emotion that is getting blocked and buried within us. And oftentimes it is anger, but it's not defensive anger. Defensive anger is, you feel entitled, to get upset with somebody. And so you kind of go scream at them, but really it's a cover story for something else, But this core anger, righteous anger that you're talking about, anger where it's because of a true violation, but it's hard for us to feel into it. Oftentimes because we mistake anger with hurtful behavior. And we don't realize that anger doesn't hurt anyone. It's the way we handle it, with ourselves and with others.
Interesting. So we tell these stories about ourselves, those who hold grudges, grievance narratives, you call it. Do you have any recommendations about replacing those with other kinds of narratives?
I mean, I think it can be useful to just kind of introduce a little curiosity there. I was kind of going over those, like, what is my role here? What is coming up for me? And kind of to shine the spotlight on yourself too. If you're stuck in a grievance narrative and it's putting you in a bad mood, also kind of See if you can journal a little bit about it. Does anything shift? Do you want it to change? Some people are holding on to a grievance narrative or a grudge, and they're perfect. They want to be doing that. Do you want it to be different? That's a question, also maybe for someone, to ask yourself. And then to look for the exceptions. Yeah, maybe somebody wronged you and they're not ever going to change. Maybe they're not even in your life any longer. But how can you look at the things that are in your life? Like in the Washington Post article, I used the term glimmers. I did not come up with this term. It was introduced by another therapist years ago, but it's gained a lot of traction, in the wellness world. It's basically looking at things that bring us small amounts of joy each day.
So what's an example of those?
Maybe it's seeing, a beautiful sunset. Maybe it's listening to some great music. Maybe it's a compliment you receive, from a friend. Anything that sparks this emotion, of joy.
Got it. I want to rewind a bit about grievance narratives. In therapy, my therapist always sort of challenges me when I hold a grudge. And I sort of worked through this one I mentioned with my brother, but he basically said, if you want to hold a grudge, fine, but at least be honest with yourself that it's serving you and that it's a choice you're making and forgiveness is an option. And I for me, that was an interesting thing, just this frame of like, rather than feeling like a victim and rather than feeling like the grievance happened and it controls me and I have a lot of negative thoughts about it, it's like, no, this is a choice I'm making. It might not be the best choice. I know what the implications of this are, maybe to my mental health, but it's a choice I'm making. Do you think that might be a first step in sort of forgiveness? Because for me, realizing I was holding the grudge and it was a choice I was making was the first step, because then the next step is, well, I can actually let this go. I can work through this. This frame of moving from it's happening to me and I have no control to I have a choice with how I behave. Would you agree that's like a good first step? Because I found that very helpful for me.
Yeah, I think that could be a good first step, but also to recognize, sometimes we're holding these grudges and we don't even realize they're not under our conscious control. They're defending against something else, an emotion. Like I said, that it's hard to kind of access, or validate. And the first question is, do you want to let go of the grudge? If so, what do you need to do in order to get to that place? Asking some questions. How is the grudge serving you? What's it doing for you? How is it hurting you?
I hear that. Any additional advice for people who are hearing this thinking, I have a long-held grudge. I want to get rid of this. Any advice about first steps?
I don't know. I guess maybe going back to, asking yourself some questions. What would it mean to let go of it? What's causing you to hold on to it so tightly? And starting with that.
Well, it's a great article. People can check it out in the Washington Post. Juli, thanks so much for talking to me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Dr. Juli Fraga is a psychologist and writer who covers mental health and wellness in San Francisco. You know her, you love her. Sexual health and consent educator Samantha Bitty is up next. Samantha's got a lot of problems with you people, and now you're going to hear about them. That's a Frank Costanza reference. What I'm trying to say is tolyamory, a phrase that's been going around. I talked about it last week. If you don't remember what it is, that's okay. Basically cheating on your romantic partner. Samantha's got issues with this word, and we're going to hear from her next. In and out, that's what my next guest wants to do. In and out of the interview. I mean, you just want to get about your day. I'm here with sexual consent, sexual health and consent. I suppose it's also sexual consent. This is a great introduction, but I'm keeping it. Samantha Bitty, welcome to the show.
Hi, David.
I'm not going to stumble as much. Well, I might. You came across an article, like it seems to be this new word, this TikTok word. I'd never heard of it before until last week. Tolyamory. Is it a play on polyamory when you actually dig into it? It doesn't seem like it, but naming-wise it is. Why are you so excited to rage on tolyamory, Samantha?
Yeah, so it's an article full disclosure, I'm not on TikTok. I have no idea what people on TikTok are saying about it. I just read this one article article is a strong word for what I read. And it just kind of details what tolyamory is, which is, as you said, like a play on polyamory, which is when you consensually have multiple, romantic or sexual partners in a nutshell, kind of overarchingly. And then the word tolerate, which is talking about people who are in a monogamous relationship who know that their partner is cheating, but it's just kind of like tacitly, I think the language in the article is tacitly agree to it. Like they don't question it. They don't, and so this idea of tolerating a partner's infidelity. So polyamory. And there's a few reasons why I hate it, and why it filled me with rage.
Well, first of all, polyamory is like informed consent between partners who are having other partners. So it's like they're taking a word that's basically the exact opposite meaning, changing one letter.
Yeah. The issue I also have with it is like, I don't know why cheating felt like it needed a rebrand. I think it's so diminishing to all of the very intentional labor that goes into any form of ethical non-monogamy. And like what fidelity means within different polyamorous dynamics. It was a very like cishet article. Like they only talked about heterosexual partnerships between men and women. There was a lot of emphasis on like marriage. And the other thing I found really kind of not even interesting was that they had this like description of the blah, blah, blah. And then they interviewed women. They didn't interview any men. And I imagine that it's because nobody wants to hear what men have to say about cheating. Regardless, it was like people who were also like, they were the ones who were stepping out, or they were like, yeah, my husband does XYZ, but like, I'm good with it because it makes him like he makes him a better partner at home. He's mine. I know that he's not going anywhere. Like, we can't afford to get separated, blah, 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 emotionally, financially, et cetera, et cetera. And it was so infuriating to me because in no part of the article did they address the lived experience or the wholeness of someone who's the mistress or the Mr. whoever, right? Like the person that is involved in this scandalo. And it really bothered me as someone who is a career side piece that my wholeness as a person is just completely, you're just like a prop in these people's marriage to keep their marriage together. Like it's hard enough in non-monogamy when you're someone who is solo or not in a quote unquote primary or anchored or nested partnership, to be seen as whole, to have autonomy, to have agency, like just have the grown-up conversation. Like just have the grown-up uncomfortable conversation of like, you're fucking on me and I'm good with it. I don't want to know about it. Let's create some fidelity agreements, because there's also that element of like, if you do not establish what your fidelity agreements are, then you're putting yourselves at all sorts of emotional and physical risk, for one. For two, again, it just diminishes the other person who's involved as being a whole person who might have evolving needs and wants emotionally, physically, spiritually. Like, what if I want to get nutted in, right? Like, does anybody care that I want to get nutted in? Not this wife.
No, I get it. It's also like, it's a pretty bold move to cheat on someone and just assume that they'll tolerate it, or use the fact, like bully them because your life circumstances, maybe it's financial, maybe it's intertwined marriage, maybe it's kids. Like you're basically saying my life circumstances with you are so stable and you need that stability. I'm just going to cheat on you and you got to deal with it. And then it's those people on the other side saying, well, I guess I'm dealing with this. I guess I'm okay with this cheating. Gee, I really wish they'd have a conversation with me. Yeah, I don't know. It's taking the autonomy away from your primary partner, from the person you're cheating on with. It's ugly. And all you have to do is have a conversation. And if you're certain that your partner won't leave you for it, why not just tell them?
Or, well, because it was also a lot from the gaze of the person who's being cheated on. They're like, honestly, I don't even want to have this conversation. So like, whatever. And
Grow up.
I'm just like, you took the words out of my mouth. Like literally this weekend, I was doing some like bitter bitch cross stitch, and grow up was one of the cross stitches I did, because I'm like, everybody just needs to grow up and have the conversation. And it's like, yeah, it's uncomfortable. Yeah, you might hear some things you don't want to hear. Yeah, you might have to face some of the pieces where we don't feel like we're whole.
Yeah, we don't want to eat our broccoli. Like, be an adult.
It just, let's all just try to create the conditions for accountability, because ultimately, again, like I can't, at 20 minutes, 10 minutes, a lifetime is not enough time for me to properly articulate why this bothers me so much. And then also, as someone who has like a cheating kink, I don't like cheating. I don't cheat present day, but I like to role play it. It's fun. The whole like, oh, I can't help myself, whatever. Do I have to rename my kink now? Like, you're putting all this labor on me, and I'm just a throwaway whatever in your nested or primary or whatever other partnership. And it makes me sick.
You've got monogamy, you've got polyamory, you've got something called relationship orientation. Now these people who are just cheaters and jerks are trying to like say, no, it's my relationship orientation. And they're taking the language out of people who do communicate, changing one letter and then saying, no, this is my orientation. And it's fucked up, to be honest.
It's also, you know, you already have a lot of folks out here who are quote unquote practicing ethical non-monogamy, who learned a couple things from a few Instagram slides or like a TikTok, and just wreaking havoc and chaos and negativity in the lives of people who actually have principled, ethical polyamory. And I think that like a lot of people who are cheating, it's like, you maybe are non-monogamous, and this protection around monogamy is so antiquated. And it's like, you know, there's so many factors that are contributing to non-monogamy as it's like trending upwards and more contemporary. And there's also the element of like, okay, well, you're not living a life openly. Like, are you bringing, I mean, my family's from the Caribbean, so it's like, yeah, mistresses were around. Like, we knew, you know, like, I don't, not to generalize about like any one culture, but it's like, mistresses weren't necessarily in the dark. Like, they might be at the function, like whatever. But this idea of secondary and tertiary and disposable is already such an issue within dating and romance and sex, and it's intersectional. And there are those of us who are considered disposable, and those of us who are considered, you know, dowry, like I'm the wife, I'm in the house, or I'm the husband. Like, it just, bleh. And also it's just so heterosexual. Like, bleh.
Yeah, it really does look at this through the lens of people who are kind of saying, oh, like, I've got the ring, or, you know, he's never going to leave me. It's, I don't know, it's ugly, it's weird, and it's trying to legitimize cheating, which is already something. You've already got a label, you just don't like your label.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not here for the rebrand. I don't, just, if you're going to cheat, feel guilty about it the way everybody else does. Like, why do we need to make it a valid way? Like, it invalidates so much, and I'm not into it. And I really could form probably a more articulate argument if I wasn't so filled with rage and disgust.
No, it's wild. It's funny. It's wild. And I'm glad that these articles are circulating so that you can comment on them.
Thank you.
Okay, we're here with Samantha Bitty, sexual health and consent educator. When we come back, how often do you masturbate? Will be the topic. Once every 15 minutes. That's not how often I masturbate. I'm here with Samantha Bitty, sexual health and consent educator. The amount of times people masturbate, let's just say a week. I feel like that's a good length of time to get a good answer here. It can vary wildly. You know, I have friends who it's like 3 times a day, and then I know people once a week, if that, you know, and it is always strange. I feel like, well, one time I asked a friend how often he masturbated, and he ended up confessing that he masturbated in the bathroom at work and I was horrified. So maybe that's why I don't ask people that question anymore.
As someone who has sexually explicit conversations with men all the time, both personally and professionally, most men that, at least that I attract or have interacted with, have absolutely jerked off in the bathroom at work.
Really? I'm trying to think if I've done it at like school when I was a teenager. What?
I'm sorry.
Oh man, I shouldn't have admitted that. Do I cut it out of this episode? Maybe. I just said it like it was so obvious. Well, I'm just saying when I was a teenager and I had hormones running, raging, you know, like when you're a kid, spontaneous erections, that's just like normal. Get on an airplane, a vibrating airplane. I got a boner for 15 hours, you know? And that was just normal, you know? And then tucking it into the pants, like that was just a normal Tuesday, for lack of a better way to say it. And then when you hit your mid-20s, it just doesn't happen anymore. For me, I don't know, maybe some men are different. Some people with penises are different. I don't know. But though that raging puberty hormone situation just goes away and you forget how awful it is. You got no control. Your body's taking control.
Yeah, I mean, it brings me to, I'm literally, very rarely am I speechless, but I think it tugs at my internal.
How is school any different than work, Samantha? Sorry for shouting.
Okay, so no pun intended. It tugs at my internalized sex shame, where it's like, oh my gosh, like at school, like at work, like, but at the same time, it's kind of like, you're probably better able to concentrate. I mean, I'm all for having naps and things like that. Those kind of calls to action that our body gives us. Like, I'm thirsty, I'm hungry, I'm horny. And it's actually, for people who produce sperm and people with penises, like it's better for you to kind of clear the pipes. Like,
use it or lose it as you get older, I think is the saying.
No, it's not about use it or lose it. It's about, like prostate health and like all these other, there's scientific reasons why people who produce sperm should ejaculate like on a regular basis to kind of, because you're always producing sperm. So you kind of got to get rid of like the oldies and create some goodies. But I think across genders, across sexualities, all those things, like the idea of how much people masturbate, their relationship with masturbation. A friend of mine, a woman, is going through like a very anxious, depressed time, and I'm, a support person in her life. And I was like, do you want any suggestions for me? And she's like, yes, I would. And I was just like, are you masturbating? Like, are you coming? Like, what, like, is that, and it can be really hard when you're depressed to be like, okay, I'm going to rub one out, but it can, chemically help to elevate mood. And I was saying to you before we started recording that I'm like, oh, I'm so anxious today. Why am I so anxious? There's nothing, none of my life circumstances are any less demanding today or any more demanding than they are every other single day. And I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't come for like a week. And I was like, maybe that's why I'm all prickly and agitated and whatever. So
I feel like there's very few natural things you can do to just flood your brain with chemicals that could shift your perspective. Working out, but who wants to do that when you're depressed? Yeah. Having a good cry, afterward you get all those serotonin kind of chemicals. Not for everyone. I don't mean to diminish everyone's experience, but occasionally for me, after a good cry, I feel great,
It did occur to me that I needed a cry. I'm on Zoloft, sertraline, so it's really hard for me to cry unless I'm getting my period. And so whenever I'm in this like weird space, first thing I do is look at my period app. I'm like, where am I hormonally? What's going on? Why do I feel up? And if there's no answers in there, it's like, okay, I need to cry. And then I'm like, how do I get to cry? And like, I have a date later. I'm like, am I going to get them to spank me until I cry? Like, I don't know what I need. But I feel like orgasming might be the answer.
It might be. We got cry, masturbate, end of list, have a baby. That's another one. But that takes 9 months minimum. Could take years.
It also takes a viable candidate to nut in me as well, which is a lot to ask.
And I think labor is painful. I've heard that. I mean, I'm not sure, but
Somewhat, yeah.
That's what they
It's
say.
somewhat painful.
Wild,
Yeah.
wild, that whole experience.
A friend of mine used to refer to crying as emotional orgasm. And she was like, I cry at like, I schedule my cry. Like on my lunch break, like I'm just going to go in and cry. And I was like, I wish I had that kind of control over my physical reactions to emotion.
When I got turbulence in my life, such that like if I think about the turbulence, I get in a dark place, I can cry on command and use it to my advantage. Like there's nothing like a power cry at work. If you're all stressed, overwhelmed, get in that office room with the boss for your, weekly meeting. If you can power cry in front of the boss, like they're not going to unload work on you. But if you just say, I'm busy, I can't do it, I'm busy, everyone's going to think you're a jerk.
As a woman, I try not to weaponize tears.
Am I invalidating that by weaponizing it as a man? I'm monopolizing on kind of the gender privilege.
Yeah.
Maybe I am.
It's like he must be really going through it if he cried. Like
you're right. Yeah. You're right. I'm totally weaponizing something that if I were a woman or not just a cis white guy, then it might be perceived differently. And for that, I am sorry. Having said that. I don't know. Do I feel that bad for crying in front of my boss? No, I don't.
If it's related to work, and you know how I feel about work and working, especially for someone else, yeah, do what you got to do. They don't care about you.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, what am I really getting here? I'm not throwing my coworkers under the bus. I'm just getting a little bit of a relief valve. It's not hurting anyone, but I get how it's. I'm giving advice like it could apply to everyone, and it quite frankly doesn't. I get that. Now, thank you for that.
I have a casual kind of orbiting partner who told me that he like almost never masturbates. And I was like, that's so suspect to me. Like, and I believe him.
Yeah.
Because he's a little bit who's the guy from Psycho? The finance bro, Norman Bates? No, what's his name?
Norman Bates, yeah.
In American Psycho.
Oh, American Psycho. Norman Bates is from Psycho. American Psycho is, I forget his name.
Christian Bale.
Patrick Bateman.
Patrick Bateman. His whole condo, everything. I'm like, and works in front. I'm like, this is all very Patrick Bateman vibes. And the fact that you don't masturbate is also contributing to that narrative for me.
There are people that are like, I don't masturbate. I just like sex. I'll just do sex with my partner. Why masturbate? And I'm like, what? Like,
I'll just do sex.
That's what British people say. I love when they say do a poo. That's my favorite saying. I'm going to do a poo.
I don't want anyone to ever say that to me.
Oh, well, I work with on the show Tony, and he's always like, I got to do a shit. I got to do a poo. I'm like, what are you doing? You got to. Never mind. I'm totally off topic. What was I saying? And then there's people who think masturbating is cheating, which is like, I can't even you're not even on the same planet as me.
I have been in monogamous partnerships where we're not having sex together. And I've never once thought of masturbating or watching porn or whatever it is as cheating or as like betraying me in some way or not giving energy to our bond that, I don't think of it as selfish. It's like, if you don't have the energy to give to me, with me, like co-create a sexual experience, go jerk off for sure. Because that's fair. Like sex is a collaborative environment when it's partnered. And I think a lot more people would benefit from jerking off instead, and I use that across genders and sexualities, than having partnered sex. Because if all you're focused on is your own nut, that sucks. Like and I feel the same way. It's like, I don't have the energy for partnered sex. Let me just do my own thing quietly on my own time. Or like, nobody wants that. Like, I don't know. I've never had an issue with that.
I'm on the same page there, but I guess if both partners together see masturbating as cheating, and that's how they both see it, and they're both opted into that view, like, who am I to judge? But other than that one narrow thing, I'm judging. I think that's a wild way to look at it.
Those are the people who are practicing tolyamory.
You brought that full circle. Mazel tov.
Actually, I had a conversation yesterday. I was part of a conversation yesterday. It's like, what do you say in response to mazel?
Oh, I don't know. Thanks.
Thanks.
Great, but I don't know. Samantha, thank you. This was fun.
Mazel.
You brought that around full circle when you brought in tolyamory. Wow. This is why you're the best in the biz. Samantha Bitty, sexual health and consent educator. I don't know what else to say. Samantha, we'll see you next week. Coming up, my friend Natasha Vinik. She has just come back from Netflix is a Joke, the festival. She performed there. We're going to catch up with her. And like that, more of whatever we do on this show. Again, I have no idea what that is. So if you know what we do on the show, please email me. Please slide into my DMs and just let me know what the show is. Because quite frankly, I have no idea. Natasha Vinik up next. We are here with comedian, personality, friend, Natasha Vinik. Hello.
Yep.
Oh.
Hello.
Yep.
Sorry.
You confirmed. It's good.
I'm letting him know that it's accurate.
I worked friend in there, which I guess means I can tell my therapist I finally made a friend. And all before my 38th birthday. This is very exciting.
Is your birthday coming up?
1 week today.
No way.
No
Happy birthday soon. I feel like I should put that in my phone.
No, come on. I
Let's
like to
just write it down.
The less people that reach out, the more miserable I am, which is really a gift. Like
I know, but I'm just going to make you not have that gift. I'm going to give you the different gift, the one of friendship.
Like, I'm sure, you know the song, It's My Party and I'll Cry If I Want to?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure the climate of the culture, the cultural climate, if you will, at the time, like how that song came to be, a sexist industry, probably a sexist message, some male writer and producer being like, women cry, and they cry on their birthdays because they're women. Therefore, we'll write a song about it. Like, I'm sure the circumstances are ugly, but the fact remains the underlying message of it's the day I get to feel sorry for myself, and nobody can tell me any otherwise. It's a great message. It's an uplifting message.
It's not a bad message, yeah. So it's the 18th. Your birthday's the 18th?
It is. I'm sure you have friends, maybe you're like this yourself, where it's like, I want to be miserable on any given day. And then the friend, or maybe you, is like, no, don't be miserable. You got a lot of great things going for you, sister.
Yeah.
But the best response is, it's my birthday. Shut up.
Man, you're going to get so many uplifting texts on your birthday from me. It's going to drive you nuts. You're going to be pissed.
I am. Well, I'm going to have at least one person text me, although you're not the first person to say, oh, let me write that down. I'm like, well, you're not planning anything. You're just going to send me happy birthday on a text. It's fine. Yep.
It's going to be really good.
I really wanted to send my brother a singing telegram this year, but I just couldn't get organized. Maybe next year.
Do those still, it just means someone comes to your door and sings at you?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Do those still exist? Are those still real?
I'm sure you can find some schmuck on Craigslist to go to a door and sing. Yeah.
A TaskRabbit. Yeah.
I don't think it's like, Smith and Smith Singing Telegraph Co., on Fifth Avenue. Like, I don't think that exists anymore. It might have at one time.
I hope there's still a telegraph business. I hope there's a singing telegraph business that survived the last, was it 100 years?
You ever been
when did phones happen?
Phones? Well, telegraphs happened before phones.
Yeah, but when did telegraphs happen?
Oh, man, it's just one wire, right? It's just a little electricity on a wire. That's been around for a while, the telegraph. The phone, maybe 100 years. The telegraph, maybe like 100.
200?
No.
130. 130.
Yeah, I was going to say 125. The telegraph. Well, now I'm getting the Daily Telegraph.
That's not the same.
No, that's a British newspaper.
It's a very different telegraph.
Now I'm at the disambiguation page. The electric telegraph, 1840s. 180 years. We were 50 years off.
Wow.
It's like...
That really changes things.
Dear Mom, stop. Today I ate some soup. Stop. And that cost you $10,000 to send from London to New York. Wild, huh?
Yep.
Wow.
I know. What a time. What a time.
Wild. Anyway.
Did you come here without visiting me?
No. When would I have done that?
I don't know. I thought you did a California visit once for a wedding or something.
Yeah, last August. And I think I did see you. I think I did see you.
Okay, good. Are you coming again?
We had burritos. Yeah. Why, you want me to hang out with your boyfriend who's also a Toronto Jew? Is that what's going on right now?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Okay, I'll be there in August before Burning Man. It'll be me, you, Miranda, and your boyfriend. Is he your boyfriend?
I'm so excited. Yeah, he's my boyfriend.
I don't know when we transition from man I'm seeing to boyfriend, but we have. And you and Miranda can sit there while we scream at each other because that's what's about to happen.
He's not really a screaming type. I think that's only you. I think you'll just be screaming at everyone.
No, I'll draw it out of him. We came from a neighborhood of loudmouth Canadian Jews. It's deep in there. He's like me more than you think. He might be polite on the exterior, but he will be shouting over me. I promise this.
Oh, I'm so excited for this. Let's do it. August? That's close. It's happening.
Yeah, August.
Coming right up.
But, singing telegraphs. Have you ever been at a party and someone's like, oh, that's Jimmy over there. He's from a singing telegraph company fortune. No, I don't think so. I think these companies I think when the phone came out, they maybe were out of business.
Yeah, but I feel like they could have paired up with like where you send bouquets to people. I feel like that could be a business together.
Yeah, singing flowers. I don't know why they still call it that. Like, of all the things that have been replaced, like, you don't say you're posting a text message. Like, that's the way that you used to send messages, by posting them. It's like the language of singing at door has not been updated with the times.
What should it be now?
Just singing letters, singing delivery, singing thing. Shouldn't be a telegram.
Okay.
It's not a sub for a telegraph.
No, you're right. You're right. It's not a telegram. It's not a telegram.
Telegram or telegraph. I feel like many years ago, the office would get in a wire from across the country, maybe underneath the Atlantic, and then they dispatch someone to your house. Like maybe they're riding a pony. I don't know.
Did they put a wire deep in the Atlantic? Is that what happened? I don't know how things worked back then. Was there a wire? Was there an actual wire in the Atlantic Ocean?
Well, now it's fiber optic cabling, but yeah, there's wires.
That's amazing.
How do you think you send an electrical signal from England to the United States?
I just always thought it was air stuff.
Just airplanes sending messages?
No, like radio waves or something like that.
I think you can do that, but not at like a high bandwidth. Maybe and then radio came after, I think, like telegraph. I'm not a radio historian. I'm not like an
Yeah, I know, but you kind of should be, because radio's your thing.
It's not like a bad, that's the guy at the party who's going to tell me about the history of electricity. Like, that's not the worst. There's worse guys out there. No, there
are worse things. You could be like, oh, that's a singing telegram guy. I hate that guy.
Yeah. Or maybe I could just
Love the guy.
I'd corner you at a party and just tell you all about MMA, mixed martial arts. Like, nobody wants to be cornered by that guy.
Hate that. Don't need that. Would love to know how electricity works.
Well, I'm not saying the electrical history guy's any good. I'm just saying he's better than the MMA guy.
I would take it in a heartbeat over MMA guy and singing telegraph guy.
What about like reality TV guy?
I think it depends on the show. It's very show by show basis.
Got it. So if someone corners you and starts telling you about the Real Housewives of like old Jersey or something? No. Nothing. Okay. No.
But they talk to me about Love is Blind. I'm here for it.
People love this show.
Yeah, because it's really good.
I'm here with comedian Natasha Vinik. You just performed in a prestigious festival and it went amazing.
It was a lot of fun. You know who was at the final Netflix after party?
This was Netflix is a joke for those who have no idea what I'm talking about. Who was at the final after party?
A lot of the cast of Love is Blind.
Were you starstruck?
I was pretty stoked, honestly. I was like, that's cool. That's kind of cool. I made eye contact with one of the girls. We smiled at each other. It was kind of neat.
We saw someone on the street, a lesser character from the show. What's the one where they're on the boats? Below Deck. Have you seen that one?
Oh, no.
We saw someone on the streets in New York. My girlfriend was excited, but I'm like, they're just some schmuck, you know?
Yeah.
Everybody's just a schmuck.
But they're usually very good-looking schmucks. They were very good-looking in person, too. I was like, good job with that.
True. I was on the streets with... Have you seen the show Outlander?
No.
It's like a romance. It's not sci-fi, but they time travel. That's the only sci-fi element. It's like a romance show, and this woman gets transported back into like 1800s, 1700s, maybe even 1600s, Scotland, and she meets the man of her dreams, and they go on all kinds of adventures together around the world.
Wow. Does she get to stay there?
Yeah, I mean, she can go back, but she chooses not to. But then she maybe goes back to raise her daughter. But then her daughter, it's like it's not a good. But anyway, there'll be episodes where there's like a bloody battle because it's set in that kind of era.
Yeah.
But then there's an episode where the two of them just for an hour and talk about how much they love each other for an hour. So it's like
I love this show.
it's like a Harlequin Quinn novel, but then it's also Game of Thrones. It's kind of like it's
I
nice.
like that. Can you understand them? I can't understand the Scottish accent at all.
I can. The one that gets me is not like a mild Welsh accent, but a thick Welsh accent. I can't get a word. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can get Scotland and Irish, Northern, Southern Ireland, well, Republic and Northern Ireland. I can get Scottish, Irish, all over England, but when you get into Wales, I'm done. No, not a prayer.
Yeah, it gets real goofy out there, doesn't it?
Anyway, I'm with a friend. We see the love interest on the street. His character's name's Jamie. I don't know what the actor's name. And I'm just with this friend, and she screams at this. She's a real estate agent. She screams at this guy, "Hi!" And then he just kind of looks at her. He's like, "Oh, hey." And I'm like, "Oh, was that like a client who you sold a house, or was that another real estate agent? Is that a friend of yours?" And she's like, "No, that's the guy from that show." She just screamed at him like she knew him. And it was like she blurted it out involuntarily. But I will say this, very handsome, that guy. Very pleasant to look at.
See, they very good. It's like they know how to cast for TV or something. They know what they're doing.
They do know what they're doing, as do you. And that's why you were booked in Netflix is a Joke. I'm here with Natasha Vinik, and we'll be back with her. We are back with...
Okay, I love learning about radio. Okay, sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. It's what do you want to learn? What did you want us? What was so important?
No, go ahead. No.
We're here with Natasha Vinik, learning about radio. Natasha's a radio history expert.
A Radiohead, if you will.
Boom. Boom.
Pow. Bang. This is done. That was a peak, right? It's not going to get better than that.
It might. What were you thinking, Talking Heads song, or were you thinking 90s grunge band named after the Talking Heads song?
The latter.
I like the Talking Heads.
I also like them too. I didn't know they did a song called Radiohead.
They did. It's not particularly good. And I'm like, why did Radiohead name themselves after like an average Talking Heads song that people don't know?
And they want to do like a deep cut, right? They're like, what else? What other Talking Heads song would you do?
I don't know. I go through phases, right?
What's the song where he's like, how did I get this beautiful life? How did I get here? What's that song?
You may find yourself, oh man.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That's one of my favorites.
Once in a Lifetime, I think.
See, and that's not a good band name. Radiohead makes sense.
Or is it Once in a Lifetime? Now I'm losing my mind. Is it even? And it takes the world on.
It's a great song.
Yeah. Once in a Lifetime. Is that what I said?
Yeah, that's what you said. Which I said, not a good band name. Makes sense to do Radiohead.
Okay.
Yes.
Netflix is a Joke. How was it? I feel like you go into these things with these great expectations, and then it's just like, okay, well, you just sort of show up and you're your average self, like you are at every gig. And it's like better on paper as hope than it is realized. Not that it's not good realized. It just takes kind of courage to face the realized great thing versus the potential great thing, if you know what I mean.
No, but I'll tell you my experience.
I just mean, like, suppose I have a big opportunity coming.
Yeah.
You know, maybe it's an appearance on someone's show, or maybe it's a great guest on my show. For example, today, great guest on my show, Natasha Vinik.
I know, and you were terrified, but it took great courage for you to be here.
Terrified, electrified, to just even talk to someone like you presents this moment, this milestone in my radio career. And then I interview you.
Big.
And then I interview you. And it's good. Don't get me wrong. It's great even. But it's never the ideal. It's never the fantasy.
Oh, what's the fantasy here for you?
Well, that you really take a notice to me and you tell the world about me and that I become as famous as you, which is just slightly less famous than, I don't know, Taylor Swift.
Is that your birthday request? Because I can write that down.
Make me slightly less famous than Taylor Swift. Yeah, I mean, that would work. That's fine.
All right, I'll see what I can do.
I just mean that gap between the ideal before it's realized.
Yes.
ideally you perform once and someone's like, hey, you want to have a special? Like that's always a possibility. It's rare.
That's the dream. That's the dream for sure. I am not an optimist. I go in with very, very tempered expectations because I don't like being disappointed.
Hope is a dangerous thing for your own emotions.
Exactly. Not into hope. Got to keep it real chill, real mellow. So that's kind of how I went in. And I know that I'm not one of those people who are able to like, people who can schmooze an event and get something out of it, where they're like, oh, wow, I got an agent or I got a whatever. I'm not one of those people. I'm just, just a normal little lady going around.
Just saying that you have an agent is schmoozing?
No, like being able to like use an event and use your networking skills to like get a result you want out of it. Do you know what I mean? There are people who can do that. People who are good climbers or good at schmoozing where they can like, oh, I met this guy and I got this guy and this happened from it. I'm not good at that.
So I go to the butcher and then I'm next to replace Howard Stern if I'm good at schmoozing somehow. Exactly.
But like an event like this where it's like, a lot of industry people, you're more likely than your butcher, depending on who your butcher is.
Yeah, but don't they read the desperation on your face? Like people who can open doors for you, if they don't know you and don't know anything about you, like there's always a 1% chance they're like, yes, I don't know who this is, but I love him. But 99% of the time they're like, ugh, you're too much, dude. You're fucking just back off.
That's what I think. And that's why I'm not a big schmoozer, I like to keep it really normal. I don't want to bug anyone,
Yeah.
But ultimately I had pretty like normal tempered expectations. It was just a huge festival that took over LA. So a lot of places where they normally have shows, instead they were Netflix festival shows. So I performed at a couple venues and, most of the shows were fun. The after parties were neat, but it was nothing like crazy. Jim Gaffigan was in line with me for a drink. He did not tip.
Okay, I know you already told this story. God.
Oh, then we've already talked about Netflix as a joke. How many times have we talked?
Well, you were there. I talked to you when you were there. You were in the middle of it.
Oh. Okay, yeah. Afterwards,
don't worry.
The Love is Blind cast. That's it. That's all you got to know. That was the whole...
I forget people all the time. All the time. I was trying to delete old recordings today because I needed hard drive space. And so I would just listen to the beginning because there's like maybe a 1% chance I never use the recording and I don't want to get rid of it in case I ever need it. And I would hear, I would just listen to the beginning to see myself say the person's name. And the first 6 I went to, I'm like, wow, who is this? I got to keep this. And then I looked at what I released in the last year and I was like, I interviewed this person. I released an episode with their name in it. So I'm not mad at you.
Wow, that's amazing.
I'm so full of shit. I'm so full of shit.
That's amazing that you can forget a whole person.
Yep.
Yeah, that's how the festival was. The first 2 shows were really good. My last show I did was not great. It was weirdly organized.
What does that mean?
The headliner decided to go first, which is a bold choice.
They had enough pull to do that?
Well, I mean, it's their own show. It was like a 10 p.m. show and it was mostly standing room only. So people were there standing just to see this guy. And then we have, he has a host do a host set and then he does his 45-minute or whatever headlining set. And then everyone afterwards leaves because that's who they were there to see. And so me and a few other people are doing our sets to like a more than half empty. It was really rough. It was really bad.
That is a dick move right there.
A bummer because like interpersonally he's really, really lovely. But like, yeah, it was really disappointing.
I guess it's like, I got to look out for numero uno. And so he's like, I got the crowd. It's late. The room's hot. I'm going on. Screw these other comedians.
They would have liked him enough to stay for it. You know what I mean? Like it's disappointing. It's disappointing.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. But other than that, the other 2 shows were great. I had a great time.
And that comedian's name was Bill Cosby.
It was Bill Cosby. Actually, during the bad show, right before I got up, I think right at the end of the headliner set, some guy had just like a seizure.
Oh.
Some guy and was outside just like seizing right before I went up, and we had to someone called the EMTs, and it was very scary. It was very scary.
Yeah, that's not like a fun comedian emergency.
No, it wasn't a fun comedian. What are examples of fun comedian emergencies?
Someone getting too drunk, but not so drunk they're going to die, and then like falling over.
Yeah, that's fun. That's fun. It's a goof,
the host tripping, but not seriously or injuring themselves.
Oh man, have you seen I tripped really badly once at one of my shows. I have a clip online. Have you seen it? You would love it.
Yes. I love it.
You haven't seen it.
No, I haven't seen it.
But you would love it.
I'm going to watch it.
It's like very extreme, the fall. It's very Muppet-esque. My hair just bobbing up and down and then nothing.
Wow.
I'll send it to you.
Are you proud of it?
I'll send it to you for your birthday. Yeah, I'm proud.
Thank you. You're writing that down. Was it like David Hyde Pierce or Niles Crane level sort of physical comedy? That guy's a physical comedy genius.
I don't know who that is, but yes.
You never watched Frasier?
Oh man, you and my boyfriend are obsessed with Frasier.
Look, I know your mom's from Peru, which makes you half white. Like, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But you're half white. You should really embrace that white half and start watching Frasier.
I hear you. I do hear you.
You have to. I mean, you got to get in with your whiteness. I mean, it is the whitest show perhaps ever made, but it's a great show.
What's so good about it?
It's just the real...
I watched as a kid and I didn't get it. I'm like, I don't get what's going on. I don't understand anyone's relationship to each other. It's very unclear.
Adult comedies in that serialized, network-driven format peaked at Frasier. After that, it was all downhill. And then when streaming came, it just ruined everything. For that format, I mean, there's great stuff on streaming, don't get me wrong, much better stuff.
Yeah, there's really good stuff on streaming. What are we talking about here?
That format got developed over like 40 years. I don't know how long. Mm-hmm. Again, I'm not a TV historian nor radio historian. Frasier is the peak of it, of like dry, hilarious, excellently written, lowest common denominator, adult comedy in a networked TV show format before streaming. Like, it just hits. Just start watching it. It's the first season, like any show, but it's great.
Yeah,
it's great.
I'll think about it.
It's very white.
Anyway, I fell really badly.
I get it.
I was bruised and bleeding. It was bad.
Oh, bruised and bleeding. That could be a good name for a band. A band.
Yeah, for sure. I would do that instead of Radiohead any day.
Are we going to do 10 more minutes of this, or are we done? I can't decide.
You follow your truth.
Oh, man.
I need to tell you how bad that fall was.
Okay, that'll be the big cliffhanger. Will Natasha Vinik, comedian, come back and tell us how bad the fall was? Find out more in a moment. You won't believe what happens next. Natasha Vinik told us about her fall, and you won't believe. All right, we'll be back. All right, we came back with Natasha Vinik, comedian.
Hey.
You fell.
Okay, it wasn't any normal fall. It was crazy. There was bleeding, there was bruises. I had a great recovery, but this was 6, 7, 8 months ago.
Oh.
Or whatever. And I was just 2 days ago, I was at like an open mic, but a musical one, like a nice open mic where people are doing nice music instead of comedy.
Annoying.
And a guy, I introduced myself to a guy, and he's like, I think I recognize you. I'm like, I think I recognize you. And he's like, have you been to? We probably met each other at one of these before, because this was a monthly open mic. And I didn't want to argue and say that I've never been there before, so I just said yes. And then I'm like, do you ever go to Endgames? And he's like, Endgames Improv? I'm like, yeah, I'm a teacher there. And he's like, oh, I think I went to your stand-up show there. And I'm like, oh yeah, I had a stand-up show there. And he's like, and I think it was the one where you, and then I was like, oh, where I fell.
You're a celebrity to this guy.
He specifically remembered me like falling and recovering quickly, which was very silly.
So is it going on to your set? Is it walking off from your set? What are the circumstances around the fall?
I think I was hosting and I was really eager. It was like our first one of these shows and I like wanted to crush it. And I think I like ran after someone else's set to introduce the next person or something. And when I ran there, I did a real bad fall. And then every comedian afterwards like mimed doing a silly fall when they got on or off stage as a bit, which was pretty silly.
You were the show's hero. I mean, people probably loved that show because of you. Yes, they did. I mean, this guy remembered it and he was, as my friend said, on my nuts all night. So yeah, it really did something, you know? Wait, what? rewind. This guy was on your nuts all night.
That's what my friend Molly said.
Does this mean he was hitting on you? He was interested?
I thought he was just like down to talk about Taylor Swift and Gaylor with me, but she was like, no, he was into it. I'm like, that makes sense. There's no reason he should want to talk about Taylor Swift, Gaylor lore.
He's got a thing for women with scabby knees? Like what was his...
He loves scabby knees and he loves learning about Taylor Swift. I think it's...
Maybe you're a little over his age bracket.
What do you mean?
I mean, it's usually children that have scabby knees and love Taylor Swift. I'm just saying those two things combined.
Hey, it's not usually just children. She and I are the same age, okay? She and I are the same age.
I'm just saying, if I have scabby knees and I love Taylor Swift, I'm probably a teenager. If I love Taylor Swift, you might be an adult. But if I've got scabby knees and I love Taylor Swift.
Yeah, you're right.
Don't you remember when you were a kid and you just had scabs on your knees all the time and it was like normal?
No, I remember falling really terribly and having scabs on my knees for like a month. No, this is my adult life, okay?
I know, but when you were a kid, were you not just walking around with scabs all the time? Like, I was a scabby kid.
You were a scabby kid?
Yeah, you weren't?
You just like crawl? No, they didn't let me outside.
Because you're allergic to everything?
Yeah, I was an indoor child.
She's getting for the door.
Exactly. Like, we got to keep her in here. She doesn't know what to do out there.
Wow. When you finally got loose, look what happens. They were right.
I know. They were right. It's dangerous. I fall, I hurt myself.
If you had gone through the scabby period as a kid,
maybe I wouldn't have been a scabby adult. Yeah.
So he was on your nuts. I once said something kind of rude to my girlfriend that I'm not proud of.
What'd you say?
Well, she was texting to her ex. I mean, they weren't even really, they just dated. They weren't like, it's not like uppercase X. Like, I don't think they were exclusive, but they were dating and they text. They're friends now.
Yeah.
And they text a lot about Taylor Swift. And I'm like, great,
Which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's good even.
Well, not only is it, first of all, I think it's good when you're friends with your exes. Second of all, I'm like, this is a whole need that I no longer have to fulfill. I don't care about Taylor Swift. I'm not I'm neutral on it. I find it a bit annoying because nobody shuts up about it. But at the end of the day, in terms of the character of Swift and the music of Swift, I just don't care.
Yep.
Apathy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm mad at her and she's texting him. Oh, I'm mad at her about Taylor Swift because she won't shut up. Like maybe a new album dropped or something.
Is this recent?
Not so recent. On her birthday.
Yeah, this is a big deal. It's the newest album recently.
No, this is maybe a year ago or more. Okay. Side note, for her birthday, she made me watch 3 hours of the Eras tour, and I thought she was joking. I had to sit and watch it and have a good attitude. The present was...
It's great.
It wasn't for me, but it's quite a production, I'll give you that.
It's impressive.
So I said something along the lines of, keep in mind, I was a little annoyed. She wouldn't shut up about Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
I'm like, nobody's interested.
Was this on her birthday? Was this on her birthday?
No, this is later.
Okay, got it.
I'm like, I'm not interested. And she's like, well, some people are. I'm like, nobody's interested. And then I said something along the lines of, you can talk to so-and-so about all the shit that nobody cares about. Or I'm like, he's just willing to talk to you about all the shit that nobody cares about. I'm not proud of it. It was dismissive and cruel.
Wow. You're so lucky she keeps putting up with you.
I don't know why.
Me neither. I really don't.
She has this weird brain disease that causes people not to break up with me.
Some people are just raised wrong,
Yeah. She's briefly found the cure. Like, she has dumped me 3 or 4 times.
Oh, really?
I mean, not in a long time, but we've broken up. The last time we broke up was just before Trump got elected, so it's been a while.
Wow, okay.
It was like the day he got elected, I remember I was like kind of half dating someone else at that time.
Mm-hmm. I don't blame her. I feel like all of us wanted to break up with our boyfriends when Trump got elected.
Well, we had broken up before, but I don't think, it certainly didn't help that, I think she associates those two things, but it was a month prior.
Yeah.
Banging on your nuts?
I forget. Just on my nuts? I don't know. It was a crazy phrase I'd never heard.
On your nuts?
It was a crazy phrase I'd never heard. I'd never heard her say it. I'm like, when did this happen? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Boyfriend jealous? Does he get jealous?
Nah, he doesn't get jealous. I don't think he gets jealous. He is not jealous.
Oh, we love this.
Yeah, we love it.
We love it. We love a man who isn't jealous.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good.
I mean, I get it, but it's just like not a good look.
Yeah, yeah. I think I couldn't handle jealousy if it was like, if it was pitched like my problem. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like people get jealous and that's normal, but once they make it the other person's problem, I think that's when it's too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Miranda's really good at this now. When we started dating, the jealousy, it was blurred, like it's my fault you're jealous. But now when she's like, I'm jealous, I know this is my problem, but I need you to like change this behavior and you didn't do anything wrong. Like that's, I don't mind that. I would even hazard to say I love this.
Yeah, I think we're allowed to have feelings and it's fun when people have feelings, depending on the feelings. But as long as it's not like, I'm jealous and you shouldn't. Like, if I'm acting within normal boundaries, there's only so much I can do. You know what I mean?
And you're not a mind reader, so like you don't know what's going to cause that.
No, I don't.
Back to the fall. So you're walking in between the acts. How bloody is the fall? Like the immediate aftermath, what happens?
So I pop up real fast and everyone thinks it's fine because I pop up so fast, but it's just adrenaline being on stage, you know, you're just like, oh yeah, everything's fine. But then later that night I see bleeding. There are huge, like this big, huge bruises for a while, you know, like it was bad.
It wasn't like that'd be amazing if it was a compound fracture and your like hip bone was sticking out and you're like, hello everyone.
I'm like, yeah, come on guys.
Was the blood soaking through such that the audience could see it?
I think you could see it probably on one of the back of my arms if you had looked, but
And did you finish the show like a champ?
Of course, you have to. You gotta keep moving, you know?
The show must go on.
The show must go on.
Wow. Well, that was the big cliffhanger. I mean, we really went deep into this fall. Are you happy you did it because it was on camera and now you can use it? I mean, it's my birthday present, so I'm happy it happened.
Yeah, I'm going to send you the clip and you're going to be delighted.
If you can arrange for me to become slightly less recognizable than Taylor Swift, I would prefer that gift, but a close second would be just sending me a link to the video.
I mean, you are already less recognizable than Taylor Swift.
Yeah, the word was slightly, like 80%.
You're already less recognizable than Taylor.
That is true. Thank you. I had no idea. I've come so far. NatashaVinik.com. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, DavidCooper.com.
That is definitely my website. I wonder whose website that is. I'm going to check it out. Let's see. DavidCooper.com. Oh, this domain is available for sale.
Go get them, buddy.
I'm not paying money. I got Jew.pizza. What do I need DavidCooper.com for?
You're right. That was stupid of me. Jew.pizza is perfect.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for being here. You can say you're welcome or whatever.
Thank you for having me.
There you go. That's our show. Thank you for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow. Have a great whatever. Who cares? I certainly don't.